Today we're at Spa for the second round of the Manufacturers' Cup. We're in the Subaru WRX Foxes, more yum per crumb. By a gnat's whisker I miss a car on lap 1, a car goes for a pirouette thinking it's ice skating, and the infamous penalty system. Let's take a look at what went on. In pre-race practice I was looking to try and get used to the car with a bit of a moist track. Now the moisture meter on the left hand side, if it's underneath the first line you can run dry tyres. It means that it's a little bit slick offline and you just need to be careful putting the power down. I managed to get round in a 114.8 on racing soft tyres. Qualifying had the same weather conditions as I'd been practicing and I managed to put myself on P3 with a 215.0. For the race, the conditions were exactly the same as qualifying and what I'd been practicing, so the tyre choice really came down to hards, mediums or softs. From watching other players in the southern hemisphere, it was pretty clear that the medium tyre choice was going to be the best to go with. The mediums basically dropped off in the last 2 laps, so that's the strategy we're going to go with. Using the replay, I was able to find out what the tyre choice everybody had. First place had mediums, second place mediums, third place me on mediums, fourth softs, fifth medium, sixth hards, seventh soft, eighth medium. So it was going to be an interesting race. So let's get into the race and see how the strategy for everybody else pays off. And it's a fast and furious start straight into Eau Rouge. The temptation is to lift off because it's a little bit damp, but there's grip there, so just keep your foot planted. And the guy in front doesn't, and oh my god, so close to running into the back of him. Look at this, it's so close. Literally his wing is over the top of my front fender. Unbelievable. Almost completely binned it on the start of the race. Everybody's bunched up pretty much from 2nd through to 7th now. Going into the top of the hill section, it's a little bit greasy. DMT Doctor has made his presence felt immediately on the soft tyre. Now starting to chase me down, and Zors goes off and he was on the hard, so it was clear that the traction was definitely a limiting factor for him, and tumbles down the order. We're all relatively well paced at the front of the field, so here it just comes down to getting the traction down, the tyre compound, and making sure that you get some good racing lines in for the first few laps. You can see here traction's still a little bit limited, tyres are still coming up to temp and just getting used to the greasy conditions. They do improve over the next couple of laps, so we should be able to see some half decent racing. Just focusing here on making sure that I'm hitting my braking points and getting a solid first lap in. There is 12 laps, so if something does go wrong, then you got some time to make things up. Leader there has just pulled a gap on the field. I'm not really able to get into the slipstream, and DMN Doctor is right on my bumper owing to soft tyres and getting into my slipstream. So through this sweeping left, I just go wide, just an understeer mid-corner. DMT Doctor also had the same thing, and we both pick up a 0.5 second penalty, and then we balk our exits of the chicane. Choristus just manages to get past, so just haven't had the great ending to the first lap. But I'm just going to settle in behind, not push the issue into turn 1 because it's pretty greasy and we're all bunched up and there's still another 10 laps to go in the race. It's probably better just to stay behind and get the slipstream and pass them up the hill. It's just coming down into Eau Rouge, just setting up for the corner. There's a little bit of dirty air and I just clipped the inside edge here and just unsettled the car completely, and I go wide, or cut the corner even, and lo and behold, a 1 second penalty. So I've just gone from bad to worse, and now I just have to put together a decent lap to try and pull a gap to minimise the time lost and try and stay in the race. There's still another 10 laps to go, but this isn't the greatest start. P1 has just taken off. DMT Doctor with his soft tyres is just able to pull away. So now I'm in a group of cars between 3 and 7 that are all vying for the coveted podium positions. We're all basically about the same pace. TLR Tony is on softs as well and is coming through the field, so I've got to be wary that serving this penalty is going to put me right into his pocket. If not, he's going to pass me anyway. So looking to try and minimise and only maybe drop 1 or 2 positions, but you know, it is a 1 second penalty, which ultimately it's about a 2 second penalty because it's right on the middle of the fastest, well, one of the fastest straights. So we're just coming up to serve the penalty here, flick on the hazard lights and pull across to the right, and lo and behold, got two positions lost, Choristus and TLR Tony. Just thinking about my braking point, making sure that I brake nice and deep because I haven't got as much speed as what I would normally. And up in front, something really weird happens. Choristus ends up just disappearing and reappearing next to me, and I make up a position. So having a look here, just completely outbrakes himself and gets reset almost at the 100 board. So that's actually really good from the game because he was going to absolutely wipe out the person in front. So made up a position, so from 0 to 0 and back to okay position. So now we're in P4. Unfortunately, TLR, he's got a bit of a gap, so I'm not able to hook onto the slipstream. I managed to get a half decent exit out of the first corner and heading down into Eau Rouge. I know that I've just got to get a much better line than the second lap, which I managed to do relatively well. And Scott, I'm just pulling a little bit away, but he's in my slipstream, so I know that by the end of the straight he's going to be right on me. Just pull to the right a little bit. Not really trying to break the slipstream, but just seeing if I can catch him off guard. So going through the top complex of the corners, I just want to keep a nice tight line, making sure that I'm a little bit defensive, just not to open up a lunge from Scott. Heading down into the hairpin, he does have a lunge, and I managed just to unfortunately clip, well, it's kind of him, he poked the nose in, and I've just clipped him with the back of the car as I've turned in. So a bit of a half-hearted lunge there and not really the room, and unfortunately for him it ends up that I'm able to gap him a little bit. So now I'm really focused on just trying to put together the last part of the lap, get a gap so he doesn't get the slipstream and I don't have to worry about that again. So all action for the first 3 laps here, with almost binning it on the first lap, penalties on the second lap, and the third lap having a bit of an altercation with the car behind. Completely unintentional, but you know, that's a bit of rubbings at racing. Understeering just a little bit through the back end of the course here, and I noticed that maybe that's just the driving style that I've got that day, where I'm just oversteering the car a little bit too much on turn-in, and maybe it's just the lack of grip, but you know, I'm managing to get a little bit of a gap now and pulling into the end of now the third lap. You can definitely see a gap there. TLR Tony on the soft tyres is well ahead, and I'm just not going to catch him at the pace that I've got at the moment, especially if I keep making mistakes. So UFT's coming into the picture there behind Scottster, and they both just have a poor exit. Fast forward now 4 laps, because really after that it was just plain sailing, putting together decent laps, 2:17, 2:18s, and all of a sudden TLR Tony seems to be slowing up. The track's completely dry now and bright sunshine, and you can see that I've just managed to get a good exit off the first corner as UFT goes wide, and I catch up in the slipstream, and I'm looking for a bit of an aggressive move here, but TLR is completely not defending it at all, and I just sail past quite easily. I'm guessing that the tyres are completely worn off, and certainly they appear to be, and that he's just going to slipstream me around the track now and try and preserve what little he has left. And sure enough, you can see on screen that the RS at the bottom left, it's quite a bit of red there in the tyres, so they're definitely wearing out. So he's just not getting the drive out of the corner that I'm getting, and a little bit squirrely as well. So I think that he's going to fall prey in the next few laps as well, given that there's another 5 laps to go, or 4.5. So I'm just putting together a half decent lap here and managed to get a small gap, but I'm worried about the slipstream. But then TLR has a bit of a moment out of the last chicane, and that's all I needed to have. So now I'm basically chasing down DMT Doctor, so he's also on softs but in the Subaru, so might be a little bit better on wear compared to the M6. And we'll fast forward into the top of the course, come around the chicane, and Doctor's literally just off the course. I wondered what the heck had happened, so I had to have another look at this for sure. Clearly something's gone on. So we're with DMT Doctor here at the top of the course. You can see really tentative on throttle, and the tyres are completely gone, just having to short shift the car. It's almost like he's back on wet tyres or something. Turns into the hairpin here and just trying to get the throttle down. You can hear the tyres protesting, and just a small slip, but because there's no grip in the tyres, ends up on the grass, spins it round. That's a shocker for him, but great for me. So I'm up into P2, UFT's fast behind me on medium tyres, and we're trying to chase down the leader. So again, this just putting down some half decent laps towards the end of the race. The tyres are really kind of worn now, and so just coming up to the last chicane here, just being careful. I've maintained the gap from UFT and crossed the line in second place, which is a fantastic result for me. So as I'm basking in my glory with my fantastic P2, I'm just seeing that the checkered flags with the guys behind coming through, but there's like a ticker tape parade happening on the screen with the names changing places, so I've got to go back and have a look at this and just see what happened. So there's 4 cars from P4 through to P7, all vying for the 4th place. TLR comes in and just completely pirouettes. There's just no traction on that car whatsoever and takes out Scottsdale, which is really unfortunate. A strong P5 for him. Thrown away now with Megadeth coming through. No doubt his name has actually instigated the whole affair. From TLR, Tony's car just plants boot. The car completely spins up and just loses traction. He had nothing really to do other than go into the back of Scotster. Earns himself a 4-second penalty and tumbles down the order. So a solid result after a pretty entertaining start and an entertaining finish behind. 4 people didn't end up finishing, and a P2 for me. So just goes to show that you can make a comeback if you have a bit of a whoopsie in the first few laps. So that's it from me. See you on the next one.